Hi guys, and welcome to the channel. In this review we are going to see how to straighten your miniatures, because sometimes when you buy it, it would come bent. I made 3 groups. The first group is the easiest to deal with because you just have little parts to deal with, just like the bow here, and it's very easy because I just have to dip a small part of the miniature. For the second group, I will have a little bit more work to do. I guess I will have to put a little bit more of the miniature into the hot water, but basically the process remains the same. The last group contains only one miniature. The last miniature is very bent, but at the end of the day we will see that it's very easy to straighten. The good news is most of the models are in the first category. It was the first time I was doing it, and I realized that it's very easy for all these 3 groups of models. You will see that you don't always need to straighten them. It all depends on how you glue them to the base. Let's have a look at the miniatures before I straighten them. Here you have the 2 swords. On this miniature you have the part at the bottom of the sword. For this one you have the staff at the back. Here the sheath. For these 2 guys, it's about the axe. So one is bent this way and the other is bent the other way. Then we have 2 other models, and you see with the swords, and for the big sword you just have a little work to do. Here you can see that the axe is bent both this way and the other way. For the wings I want to fix this and that. And for this big guy, it's about the spikes on his back, so you just have 2 spikes. It's very easy to do. And then for the Skeleton King, we have the weapon that is bent and also the swords on his back. It's pretty easy because all these parts are very thin. For the second group, we start with these skeletons. So the problem that I see is the foot that is at the back. Here again, it depends on how you stick it to the base. So here I pushed a little bit too hard and snapped it off the base. It's not a big deal because I will switch the base anyway. It's just to show you that you can glue the both feet to the base and you don't have to do any work. Then we have the Skeleton King and the sword. For these 2 guys, even if you can just glue them to the base accordingly to balance the bending of the leg, I will do it anyway because I want to have a try. For this guy, I just want to straighten the staff. And then we go to the angel. You see that the 2 swords are bent in 2 different ways. And if you look at the back, at the top of the miniature, that's what you can see, and it's good to fix it so it doesn't interfere with the wings. This part here is interfering with the base. First I thought I would snap the arm. It's very bent in many ways. So for his left sword, I will try to put it on the outside so it's easier to deal with. I first had the go to test the flexibility of the model, and then I gently applied pressure, and here you go, and nothing is damaged. And now it's a lot easier to straighten this sword, and the base isn't interfering with the sword anymore. And the last one is the lady on the snake. Although it looks like it requires a lot of work, you will see that at the end of the day it was very easy too. First, the snake is bent backwards, and also I would like to fix the legs because they are floating in the air, and I would like to have them resting on the snake. Here you can see the spot where it's glued. It's glued as it should be, so I would say that it's not a good idea to snap it. And you can see this point of the tail, it's glued as well. So just the upper part is where we should try to work and just bend it the way we want. So that's how I will apply pressure. I will push it like so to both straighten the body of the snake in the 2 directions that I want. Here is the hot water and then the cold water. I started with this model because it looks to me as one of the easiest to deal with. So I put it in the hot water for 10 seconds, but it's really too much. If the water is really hot, you just need a few seconds, and then you will see that it's very soft. You apply a little bit of pressure to straighten it, And once you have the good position, one that you like, you put it in the cold water to make the plastic hardens back to what it was. I was pretty satisfied. It was very quick and easy, and the difference is pretty big, as you can see. Then I repeated the process with the different miniatures. After you have put it in the cold water, it really hardens back to the initial state, so it's very safe. For this guy, the sword is pretty thin too, so it should be very easy, although I don't want to mess up, so I should be careful. So I put it again, less than 10 seconds, and it's already getting better. Do it several times because I don't want to push too hard and take risks with the miniature. As I made my way through the process, I improved little by little, and here you can see that I also maintained the position of the sword as I put it in the cold water to make sure that it hardens the way I want it to. Here is comparison. On the left is the guy that I didn't straighten, and this one is the guy that I corrected. The water doesn't need to be too hot. The best actually is that it's not too hot, so you can put your fingers in the water and it shouldn't harm you, just like I did. I just had like hot tap water and not boiled water. At the end of the process, I realized that the best way is to apply pressure even before you put the model into the water, and then when you will put it into the hot water, you will feel it soften in your fingers, and you hold it into position this way, and then you put it back to the cold water, and that's the most effective way that I have found for the process. Also, a quick note, when you have very thin parts, when you have straightened them up and you put them back into hot water, if you don't hold the part that you want to straighten, it will shrink back to this initial bent position. So you should really hold it all the time until it has hardened completely. So here we go with the angel. It's kind of a big part. I wanted to do one sword after the other, but because it will shrink back if I don't do it at the same time, I tried to do both of them at the same time. You can see it's very soft and easy to work. I kind of had several go to find the position that I wanted, and as long as you don't put it back into the cold water, you can still work with it. It still remains pretty soft. So if you're not happy with the first modification that you have, you can put it back into the hot water and continue to work with it until you are happy with it. Here I was pretty satisfied with what I got, so I decided to end it here and put it into the cold water to make sure it will harden back to what it should be. And then I put the sword back into place. The position of my finger have to be low enough on the swords. The last miniature is Lilith, the snake. So you should really be sure of what you want before you put it into the hot water. That's the part of the bottom of the body of the snake that I want to deal with, and also to move the legs closer to the body of the snake. And I will deal with the scales at the top of the snake later. Here I put it into the water for 10 seconds because the body of the snake is pretty thick, and I started to apply pressure, but the best is to use your fingers. Just like I said, at the end of the process, I found that it's better to apply pressure even before you put it into the hot water. So once you put it into the hot water and you apply the pressure, you will feel when the model softens, and it's really the best way. And here you can see that I really apply the pressure and it's really working very well while I do it in the hot water. So we are back here with all the models. I will show you the result, and I'm very happy with what I got. Everything is kind of dealt with, and I added these two guys because I wanted to straighten the handle of the hammer. So you can see here for the two axes it's pretty good, as well for the two swords. It's not perfect, but I might have another go. So here the staff is done. I had several go, and this sword as well. So you can see here for the spikes on the back of the guy, it's very different. The feeling is very different. It looks a lot better. It's really worth it. For the wings, it was pretty easy because they are very thin parts. You can see here the weapon of the Skeleton King as well as the sword on the back. The axe was kind of the hardest part I had to deal with because it was bent in two different ways, so I had to do it at the same time while it's in the hot water, and it's not easy to handle because when you put it back into the hot water, what you have already corrected will shrink back to the initial bent position. For the skeletons, so the difference is not too big, but still now the feet is closer to the base and I have to apply less pressure to put the foot on the base. Here you can see the leg of these two models. They are straight, but again, you don't have to do it if you just want to snap them off the base and then glue them back. For this sword of this guy, I had several go, but again, it's not like perfectly straight. I might have to do it a few more times until I'm very 100% happy with the result. So the staff for this guy was very easy. And now you can see the angel. It's very different, and the overall feel of the model is very different now that everything is straightened. So it's not too hard, it's not too long, but it's really worth it because you have very beautiful models to begin, and then after a little effort you will have astonishing models. I think it took me 1 hour or 1 hour and a half until I found the most efficient method. But if you look at Lilith here, the lady on the snake, then you can really see that it's a lot better. So I dealt with the scales. I think it's very important for the models that you have. I would add something under her legs. On the base here, there is a space where I could put like anything, and it would come under the legs to give the feeling that she's resting her legs on the top of it. The last thing is I would advise you to wait 24 hours because I noticed that I put the models on my desk and it tended to shrink back for some of them, so you might have several go with a little bit of time between to see if it does shrink back, so you don't want to apply paint before it's settled. I hope you enjoyed the review. Give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos and to support the channel. See you next time.